Chandra-sundaramukam Tamraravindeksham Bhaktabhishtavarabhayapradakaram Kaupinamatrojvalam Svatmanandarasanubhuti vivasham Sarvanavadyangakam Shrimantam Shri Ramaneshwaram Guruvaram Yogasanadhyasitam Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Dhyayet Shri Ramaneshwaram Hridaya Kuhara Madhye Kevalam Brahmamatram Yahamahmiti Sakshat Atmarupena Bhati Hridivishamanasa Swam Chingvata Majjatava Pavana Chalana Rodha Atmanishto Bhavatvam Namo Ramana. In this Tuesday Atma Vichara session from Ramana Center for Learning, we have been reading from the last 3 weeks from the book Years in the Presence of Ramana, My Master by Mahakrishna Swami, edited by our founder President Sri A.R. Natarajan ji. And we have been reading the preface by Sri A.R. Natarajan ji. Last week we concluded with this paragraph, and we will continue to read from there. What does this book have to offer to those on the direct path, to you and me? It is a restoration of lost treasure. The dialogues which Ramana had between 1938 and 1940, not available so far except for the inmates of Bhagavan Sri Ramanashramam, Brazil. Krishna Swami had gone and established an ashram in the firm and certain belief that it was the direction given to him by his Guru and Master Ramana. It is, from this week, we will read, it needs to be highlighted that the dialogues cover a part of the period in which there is a gap between the talks, that is, talks with Sri Ramana Maharshi, and day by day. The talks ended in March 1939 and day by day began in March 1945. It covers the period between April 1939 and most of 1940 and included the earlier periods as well. Mahakrishna Swami is an unknown author for Ramana readers. This is because sometime after 1940, he had, as mentioned earlier, migrated to Brazil. It is evident from the introduction to this book by Gopi Devi, a disciple of his in Brazil, that he has succeeded in the task assigned to him by his Guru and Master Ramana. There is an acknowledgement of Ramanashramam. I'll read that. In every effort of the Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning, it has received the encouraging support of Sri V.S. Ramanan, President of Ramanashramam, Tiruvannamalai. Bhagavan Sri Ramanashramam, Brazil, have kindly permitted the Ramana Maharshi Center for Learning to publish the Indian edition of this book. The artwork for the cover is by Sri Renukesh Rao and is an eyeful. Sri Ramakrishnan is responsible for the computer work which he has done with diligence and care, and also first proof reading of this book. The second proof has been corrected by Sri H.A. Shankar Narayana with meticulous care. Sri S. Pandurangan of Aridra Printers is reputed for his quality work, which is evident in this book. The center wishes to thank all of them. First chapter, Ramana my master, Mahakrishna Swami. Bhagavan Sri Ramana Maharshi was the master who revealed in a clear and definitive form the purest essence of being. His teachings, simple and uncontestable, show the ancient wisdom of the masters of the East. However, Ramana cannot be labeled as just another of the masters of the East, limited by a certain time and space. The end of 19th century until the middle of 20th century India, his teachings are beyond time and words. Sri Ramana, from a young age, was recognized as a great avatar of all the sages and people who visited him. In India, by the characteristics of the people, there is a great facility to recognize a master, an illumined being. Sri Ramana's presence profoundly impresses whoever came near to hear his teachings, and all felt a force in him, or a peace, or a light. In other words, something marvelous that transcended words. His gaze and his smile changed the history of men forever. Sri Ramana thought that there are no mysteries to be uncovered, there are no enigmas to be deciphered, there are no grades to be reached. All is simple and natural. This is what we see Bhagavan's teaching to be. There is no mystery that needs to be uncovered. There is nothing which is enigmatic that has to be deciphered. There is no grades as sadhana that we need to reach. Here on now, the truth is available to everybody. The truth alone is, the self alone is. It is our wrong identity with some concepts that make us feel that the truth is far away. Our own sense of separateness from that one truth makes us get entangled with all these ideas and concepts. But once we recognize the truth, there is no mystery, there is no enigmatic thing anywhere, and there is no grade that I have realized and somebody is not, because everything is one truth alone. We are what we are. We are simply the self. The complex explanations, the mysterious studies, the almost unsurpassable difficulties to self consciousness can be definitely abandoned due to the teachings of Bhagavan Sri Ramana. As Bhagavan himself put, இதுக்கு போய் இத்தனை கஷ்டப்படுறாரே, it is what all the people who have traveled in Bhagavan's path will find, that the truth is here and now, simple, natural. There is no mystery or difficulties to recognize it. The only difficulty one finds is because one is holding on to the sense of separateness. And by virtue of that sense of separateness, which is itself based on the idea of I, an individual notion, further concepts are all held on to, further differences are all held on to, which is all unreal and imaginative. Therefore, one may find it to be very difficult. But the truth, because it is truth and it is never changing, it is available to all of us here and now. It is just that we need to turn our attention to that ever present truth. Bhagavan Sri Ramana, the sage of sages, lived in constant union with the Supreme Self. When he administered his teachings, he did so affirming with great simplicity. There was no doubt about the direct path of the self consciousness taught by him. The truth here is being told Bhagavan was in constant union with the Supreme Self. Most of us, though we may intellectually understand that the truth is simple and here to be found, the mind still continues to swing between the reality and the imaginative thing. So, in here, because Bhagavan lived and demonstrated that one can live in constant union with the Supreme Self, and that is very important for us to recognize. He demonstrated that it is very simple. One need not hold on to any new concept, because that again will be another new idea or concept. If we can just live naturally the way things are, as though this body, this mind, like any tree or anything, any insentient objects in this world behave and exist like that, if we can let the body and the mind function and be ever established in that one truth which alone is here and now, it is very simple, simplicity itself. Therefore, there is no need for us to again hold on to that I am Dileep, or I'm an individual who have realized anything as such. We can recognize it very simple, that the truth is supportive of everything. All that is there is only the truth. It is only the consciousness. It is only that existence which appears because of, even when an idea appears in front of it, like a, which Bhagavan says, like a crystal. In front of that, if you take a blue light, the crystal will appear as though it is blue. But crystal itself has never got transformed into anything. So it is, we find that our pure existence, our pure consciousness, even though it may appear in the form of thoughts, it may appear in the form of concepts, it may appear very much like objects in the world, but at all times it is very clear that we are experiencing the consciousness itself, we are experiencing the existence itself. For us, the feeling that what we are experiencing is always that one truth. So therefore, it is the most direct path that was taught by him. There was no, I continue to read, there was no problem about the revelation of truth. For who revealed to whom in a state far beyond form. All the teachings of Master Ramana are a divine manifestation. I remember one time that one of us asked if he knew everything about manifestation. And Bhagavan Sri Ramana answered smilingly, I don't know anything. I only feel. What a beautiful expression or way to put how the truth is. We think the manifestation is all real. We will give lot of reality to the various things that we experience through the senses and various things we perceive in our mind, various concepts that rise and define how what we believe in and everything. But Bhagavan says he doesn't know any of them. He only feels, because that is how the self experiences everything. It experiences the presence of the concept and the absence of it. It feels the presence of the thought and its absence. It experiences or feels everything that is manifested or temporarily existing and going away, but not anything as in knowing. But for us, all concepts, all thoughts, all objective experience that we do, for us, we have a memory. We feel that we know. The question then is to be inquired who knows? Because even in there, we are stuck with the identity of being a separate entity who knows. But really, in our nature, which is of pure existence, of pure consciousness, there is no traces of any concepts, no trace of any thoughts, no trace of anything that we have experienced. If it was to be there in the deep sleep, we should have all of them recollected. We know that the pure existence that we are, the pure consciousness that we are, no matter what kind of experiences that may come and go, it is unaltered here and now. So Bhagavan is very clearly, beautifully saying how we need to identify ourselves with. We should not get carried away by the knowing entity. The knowing entity of all the things that comes, that is the witness, which we can say. Who knows that also? Then when we see that, we feel that we are that pure awareness itself, which was aware of itself only if it yields to a sense of deference, only if it believes there is something to be known and something knowing, then it itself, because it is the most fundamental truth and the most powerful truth, it will develop that sense of difference. And therefore, it will find that it is the knower and there is something to be known. But if we can inquire at that depth, we recognize that it is only the consciousness feeling itself at all times. There is no knowing. That is the most profound thing that Bhagavan is telling it. And that is how perhaps Bhagavan feels about everybody who comes to it. There is no need for knowing. Or when an animal came next to him, the feeling of each was very clearly visible or felt. There was no need to know, says Bhagavan here. And so, with the immense grace of Bhagavan, we will stop here. We will practice Atma Vichara. Bhagavan is revealing how the self experiences or how self experiences itself only by feeling, not by any other ways of knowing or doing. So, until all of these divisions which we hold on to is inquired, to whom is this? Who am I? We perhaps will still be caught in some concepts with a sense of division. So when all the vasanas, all the sense of dualities or separateness is inquired, and when the truth is seen in its own light, then we recognize that there is no knowing, there is only the feeling. So, with Bhagwan's immense grace, with which alone we have come to this most direct path, for the next 20 minutes, let us practice Atma Vichara. Namo Bhagavate Shri Ramanaya. We will now have talk by our President, Dr. Sarada Akka, on self-enquiry as it has been contemplated in Ramana Gita. Namo Ramana Akka.
Namo Ramana. Prostrations to Ramana, shining as the self in all beings. By the immense grace of the self, manifest as Ramana, we are meditating on the verses of Ramana Gita, which is a compilation of questions by various seekers of truth to Bhagavan on different doubts which they face in their spiritual practice and Bhagavan's answers to these questions. All these have been compiled in Sanskrit by Ganapati Muni and classified into 18 chapters like the Bhagavad Gita and called the Ramana Gita. And we have been meditating on these verses, and we completed last time our meditations on chapter 12, the verses on chapter 12, and we are now on the 13th chapter. And the 13th chapter is about the eligibility of women for sannyasa. Sannyasa, it is said sannyasadikaritvam, for the ladies. So this is a question by Ganapati Muni's wife, Vishalakshi, and she puts this question to Bhagavan through Ganapati Muni, not directly, although Vishalakshi has had darshan of Bhagavan several times, and it is in fact said that Bhagavan started addressing Muni as Nayana. Initially, he used to address him as Ganapati Garu, which is a term of respect. And Muni felt very shy because of Bhagavan being his guru, addressing him in this manner with respect. So he kept asking Bhagavan to address him without the term of respect. And Bhagavan was not comfortable doing so. Bhagavan, it is said that would address very few people in what we call Ekavachana, in the singular first person format. He would always use some term of respect. So finally, Bhagavan agreed to call Muni Nayana. Nayana means elder brother in Telugu, but Nayana also means child. So Muni said, that is fine with me. And Muni records that when Bhagavan started calling him Nayana, all his disciples, everyone else also started calling him Nayana. And what would he call Vishalakshi? Nayana also means father in Telugu. He would call Vishalakshi Amma. And Muni says, the moment Bhagavan started addressing her as Amma, everyone, all his disciples, all the people at Ramanacentre, everyone started calling Vishalakshi Amma. So whatever Bhagavan would initiate would automatically be followed by everyone. This was an example given by Muni. So Vishalakshi Amma was there. She had darshan of Bhagavan along with Mahadevan, their son. There is an interesting anecdote of the young 5-year-old Mahadevan, Muni and Vishalakshi's son. Very often it is said that Muni and Vishalakshi Amma would leave their son Mahadevan with Bhagavan and for a long time, and they would have gone out, they would have gone somewhere else, and they would return. It happened during the Pachayamman days when Muni was staying along with Bhagavan at Pachayamman temple. On one such occasion, the child was left with Bhagavan, and Bhagavan took him for a swim in the Pachayamman temple tank. And he was a young child, so Bhagavan put him, maybe he was 3 years old or 4 years old. And Bhagavan put him on his back and started swimming across the tank. The child became excited and he started behaving as if he was driving a bullock cart and saying, hey, hey, hey. And he started also thumping Bhagavan's back. Now, when he started doing so, Bhagavan later reports that it was difficult for him to swim with him on his back when he was thumping him and jumping up and down on him in excitement. And Bhagavan sweetly says, I was not so worried about myself, but I felt I had to take the child across to safety. So I somehow managed to come across. And when this was reported to Muni and Vishalakshi Amma said, you who take us across the ocean of samsara, Bhagavan, what is this tank for you? So I was just mentioning this in the context of the fact that Vishalakshi was totally surrendered to Bhagavan in the manner that Muni was surrendered, and Mahadevan, their son, had the great good fortune of being sitting on Bhagavan's lap, being carried on his back. He was a greatly blessed child. And in this chapter, the Muni begins. The first 4 verses of the chapter are praise of Vishalakshi Amma. He says, Atrinam Anvayajyotsna Vashishtanam Kulasnusha Mahadevasya Janani Dhirasya Brahmavedinaha Pratimanam Purandrinam Lokasevavrate Sthita Bibhranam Mahatim Vidyam Brahmadi Vibudhastutam Dakshine Vindyataschaktes Tarinya Adima Guruhu Tapassakhi Medayita Vishalakshi Yashaswini. So he says, she is the light of the Atri lineage, because his Gotra was Atreya Gotra, and her Gotra was Atreya Gotra. She was born in the Atreya Gotra, and she was married to Ganapati Muni, who is a Vashishta Gotra. Atrinam Anvadat Jyotsnam Vashishtanam Kulasnusha. And she became the light of the Vashishta Kula. Mahadevasya Janani, the mother of Mahadeva, and who was Dhirasya Brahmavedinaha. Now, this epithet which he is using, courageous and knower of Brahman. It could be an epithet for Mahadeva, or it could be an epithet for Vishalakshi. Pratimanam Purandrinam Lokaseva Vrate Sthita. She was ever working for the welfare of the world. Vibranam Mahatim Vidyam Brahmadi Vibhudastutam. Those who are that Vidya, the Sri Vidya, that knowledge, Sri Vidya. It is called the Upasana or the practice of Sri Vidya. Muni himself had practiced Sri Vidya initially. That was their family. That was their family practice. That was their family austerity. That was their family tapas. And that was passed on to him by his father. Before he came to Bhagavan, and even before that, he had taken on so much of other mantra japas, and crores of mantra japas he had performed. So that Vidya, Sri Vidya Upasana, many of Bhagavan's disciples, especially Jagadishwara Shastri, is said to be an adept in Sri Vidya Upasana, and he says here that Vishalakshi was an adept in Sri Vidya Upasana, which is praised by Vibhuda, all the knowers praise this Vidya. It is a great Vidya. She is knowing that Vidya, and she also knows Tara Vidya. So he says in the south, she is the first woman to have introduced Tara Vidya among other women. Tara Vidya was a Vidya which Ganapati Muni also learned later. So this is all part of the history which is giving us a historical background. And then he says, Tapas Sakhi. She is my friend in tapas. So that is a beautiful part. How Bhagavan blesses the, the family, how the Bhagavan blesses all together to reach him. In many cases, he does that. In many cases, he includes the entire family, the husband, the wife, the children. Here we can see that Mahadevan was also the devotee. So the blessed togetherness is there in Muni's life, which he is talking about, and it also means that she is a tapaswini. When he says she is my companion in tapas, it means that she supports his tapas, and it means that she is also a tapaswini, Vishalakshi Yashaswini. So he says, see, we are talking of this question has been posed to Bhagavan in 1917. So we must look at the kind of atmosphere, the way women were looked upon in those days, and how unconventional Muni is in many ways. First of all, in the freedom that he has given to his Ardhangi, to his spouse, to pursue her spiritual yearning, to take it forward, to be a tapaswini, and given her equal knowledge of the Vidyas. So that also, because Muni was a great believer in the equality of women, and also further than equality, he believed in the power of the mystic power of women, because he was also a Sri Vidya Upasaka, and he had great devotion to goddess Uma. And so he is saying here that she who is posing this question is not any lay woman. She is an adept in Sri Vidya. She is an adept in Tara Vidya. She is in herself her own right a guru, and she is also fulfilling all her roles in the best possible manner. So she is a sort of an ideal woman, he is saying, and she has a couple of doubts, Bhagavan. She is presenting these two through me. Prashnadvayena Ramana Kvayam Vishwahitam Munim. And he says she is asking these questions for the good of the welfare of the Vishwa. Abhyagachada Dushtangi Nikshiptena Mukhe Mama, through my mouth. Then this is the question, the first question. Atmasthithanam narinam asti chet pratibandhakam grihatyagena hamsitvam kimusyachhastrasam kimucha kimusyachhastrasammatam kimusyachhastrasammatam गृहत्यागेन हंसी त्वं किमु स्यात् शास्त्रसम्मतम्. So he says, she's questioning Atmasthithanam narinam asti chet pratibandhakam. A person a lady wants to pursue self-knowledge. She wants to abide in the self. But in her, apparently in her life as a grihini or as a brahmacharini, she is finding there are obstacles. Then do the scriptures allow her to become a renunciate, to take to sannyasa? Can a woman renounce home, grihatyaga. Can she do? A man is allowed to do that. Can a woman do it? No, this is a question. And before we come to the answer, it is it shows one important, there are two aspects to this question itself which are important for our sadhana. One, that no matter what our eagerness, it is important to follow the Shastra. This is very important in Bhagavad Gita also. The Lord will always say, you stick to your dharma. You stick to the, what does that mean? Do not follow somebody else's dharma. That means what is assigned to me? What is the role assigned to me by divine sanction? That is why each one of us has been born in a particular place with a particular name and a particular form. So the tradition actually asks us to submit to it. Even Bhagavan has told Mother Aragamma, let the events happen as they will happen. Do not focus on the events because you cannot change them. You cannot, there is an ordainer, he has ordained it. Therefore, you remain silent. So here she is expressing an anguish. And though she is asking about a woman, it can be applied to anybody who feels that in the path, in the place where I have been situated by divine providence, my own karma perhaps, I am finding obstacles to self knowledge. Can I renounce all these duties? Can I renounce the home and hearth and go ahead? This is her first question. She would ask a second question, but we will look at Bhagavan's answer to this first question, which comes later. And this is Swarupe Vartamananam Pakwanam Yoshitam Api Nivrittatvan Nishedhasya Hamsi Tvam Naiva Dushyati. So he says, Bhagavan says, if one is ripe, if a woman is ripe, then she can become an ascetic because the scriptures do not forbid it. But he adds a rider, he says, Swarupe Vartamananam. A woman who is abiding in the self can become a renunciate because the scriptures do not forbid it. And this, earlier also Bhagavan has said, when he has talked about the stages of life, that sannyasa is pure jnana. So what Bhagavan is indicating is that do not worry about obstacles, do not worry about, sannyasa is not about leading to the self-knowledge, but sannyasa itself is the fullness of self-knowledge. So here he is indicating that what is really sannyasa? A woman may abide in the self. In the second question also, there will be answers which emphasize the fact that there is no differentiation, there are no demarcations, there are no boundaries when it comes to abiding in the self. No one can be forbidden from abiding in the self. So none of us can be forbidden either. It's not a question of woman and man. It's not a question of young or old. There are no barriers. When a woman is asking, is there a barrier for a woman? And Bhagavan says there is no barrier. In fact, he is indicating that there are no barriers. We need not think we are well read, we are less well read, we are capable, we are incapable, we are weak, we belong to this gender or that gender or this. There are no barriers. This question and this answer are to indicate to us that there are no barriers in attaining the self, and secondly, abidance is the hallmark of true renunciation. Abidance is not only the goal, but Bhagavan always in self inquiry points out to us the goal is here and now. He says, in the practice of self inquiry, in the very first chapter of Ramana Gita, he says, in the practice of self inquiry, you will experience what you call the ultimate truth here and now. Here and now, because it is available and it is accessible, and therefore Bhagavan says, you will experience it here and now. What is the difference between this experience of the self during practice and what is called the Jivan Mukti? Bhagavan says, in Jivan Mukti, the same experience will be unwavering, it will be steady. But in self inquiry, one touches the very same experience which one gets in Jivan Mukti, says Bhagavan. And that is what he will emphasize in the second question of Vishalakshi, which we'll go into whenever Bhagavan allows us next, because it's also that second question of Vishalakshi is a historic question in Bhagavan's life itself. And probably in that sense, whatever is historic in Bhagavan's life, whatever is a significant event in Bhagavan's life, is of great significance to every one of us. Here we have understood that in one way, Muni is also indicating that eagerness, preparation is required. Whatever preparation we may have made the simplest of preparations, but it shows the earnestness. The preparation of Vishalakshi, the rightness of Vishalakshi comes by the earnestness. And earnestness is of maximum import in our practice. We need to be earnest and sincere. No matter what we do, especially in everything, we have to be honest and sincere. But most of all, within ourselves, because there is nobody else here to question or to whom we have to prove anything. When we turn within to ourselves, we alone are there. Who is there to witness it? Who is there to ask whether we have had thousand thoughts or whether we have had no thoughts? And for whose sake are we having these thoughts also when we are there all by ourselves? So that earnestness to turn back is required, and then Bhagavan says there are no boundaries, no demarcation. The self is available to every one of us. Om Namo Bhagavate Shri.
Namo Ramana. Apara Satchit Sukhavarirashi Yasyormimatram Bhuvanam Samastam Guhahitam Tam Ramanam Gabiram Chintavihinam Hrudi Chintayami Chintavihinam Hrudi Chintayami. Namo Ramana Khan, Namo Ramana.
Namo Ramana Dileep.